So my name is Paul Greenhead. So I'm head of local government practice at Methods. I wanted to talk a bit about digital transformation and a bit about the library as well. So we're a company that's been around for over 20 years. So we work across the whole of the public sector, and we're focused on digital transformation. And in particular, we're focused on how technology can be used more effectively to free up resources so it can be refocused on delivering really good quality services to the areas of the country that need it. So, local government challenges, you'll recognize these. This isn't me, by the way. This is an icon that our kind of graphic designer picked. So, everybody's trying to contend with the same sorts of challenges. So how do you translate your digital vision into a set of achievable projects? How do you accelerate your transformation? How do you deliver value quickly? The key thing here is about kind of creating great digital services and reducing costs. But the challenge that most of our customers find, and we've heard some stories this morning from in the room, is about where you start. And that's always a very difficult point. You know, where do you start? Where do you get the most impact from your investment? What's the first thing that you take? Green waste and subscriptions have come up a lot. That seems to be a favorite. But everywhere we go, there's always that perennial question about what thing do you start with first? So we always start with data. So what data do you have? How do you understand what's going on within your business? How do you translate that data into information? And we like to start with understanding user need. And the key thing here is, someone touched on it this morning, there's no point digitizing bad processes. What you need to understand is, what are your users trying to achieve? What is it they've set out to do? What's their intent? And what are the pain points they're encountering when they experience your services? The problem is that's quite expensive. In an ideal world, you take each service area and you do some proper service design. You do deep user research, you'd engage with your customers, you'd understand exactly what they were trying to achieve. But that's quite time consuming, and whilst that's really important, it's quite an expensive thing to do. So the key problem here is, how do you balance that? So anyway, one of the things that you saw this morning was my boss, Mark Thompson. So he's an academic, which is quite interesting in the kind of consultancy world, because it means that every time he comes back from doing some thinking or doing some teaching, he's got a different analogy for explaining how kind of the power of the internet is changing digital business models. And the answer from his perspective is Heart FM. So where do you start? Listen to the radio. Some cool, mellow tunes will help you decide where it is you're going to go first. What he's talking about here is about platforms. So there's a great model here with Heart FM. So it's a bit flippant when we introduce it, but there's something quite powerful underneath it. It's about understanding that they've used digital technology to create something which allows them to deliver at scale, but also tailor their content to meet local needs. So if anybody, hands up here, who listens to Heart? God, fantastic. Sometimes when I ask this question, nobody puts their hand up. It's like a sign of shame. Brilliant, some Heart FM listeners. So what Heart does really well is it uses technology to produce kind of common content. So all of the different Heart stations that are kind of tuned into kind of local areas and provide local content, they all use the same underlying technology. So they've got a whole bunch of kind of national news stories. They've got the same defined playlists. But what they do well is they take that and then they tailor their content. So they get that local news story or they get that local advertising. So they're balancing the things that they can share and the things that they can do at scale and more cost effectively with the things that are important about reflecting the local constituency to which they're broadcasting. So that's why Heart's up there. And I think that's why it's quite a useful way of thinking about what the potential is for using platforms like Jadu. So balance, that's the key thing. So we talked before about service design, how if you could, you'd understand what your users were trying to achieve and you'd apply service design to all of your digital services. Now, the issue that we have and we recognise in the room is that although we're all special, there's a cost to being special. And actually, when you start to talk to people across local government, we're all doing really similar things. So it comes back to, what are the things that we're doing where we can share some of that content? So going back to the library, what are the things that aren't as interesting, where there's not as much value, there's not as much improvement that you gain from understanding exactly what your users are trying to achieve? So what we think you should be doing is thinking about getting that balance right. So looking at what things you can share and reuse, and then freeing up your time, energy, and attention to do service redesign on those aspects of your business, those aspects of your services that add real value to your customers. So it's striking that balance. So we want to transform services faster, as I'm sure you all do in the room. And Methods has a long history of being technology agnostic. We've worked with lots of different suppliers, lots of different companies, depending on what customer requirements are. And as Suraj said, we met about a year ago, didn't we? We started talking. And we realized that the Jadu Continuum offered a platform where this idea about sharing and reusing and the ability to kind of tailor and configure to develop services that meet user need, as well as getting the advantages of kind of streaming services which are more common, was a real opportunity. And I've got to say that I've talked to lots of technology vendors about libraries and about sharing. And pretty much all of the ones I've spoken to over the years have all kind of taken that idea and just created products they've sold. So Jadu was the first organization where we kind of met them, they shared our values, they shared our vision, and they created a library. And they created a library with that kind of Creative Commons licensing. And that's really important. And as Suraj has said, it's a kind of an elegant building at the moment, and it needs some content, it needs some fantastic books. But the fact that they were willing to do that is really powerful, and I think it adds a huge amount of value within local government. So, we understand local government. So I'm from local government. I started off my career. Most of the people who work in our organisation are from public sector. So we share those values. We're still really passionate about delivering good quality services. But we also understand technology and how it can enable local government transformation. I talked before about sort of where people are on their journey. So we recognise that everybody's doing something, and hearing the stories this morning underscores that. Everybody's doing something, and most of the people in the room are doing something with Jadu. No surprises, we're at the academy. So what we can do, and what we do with our customers, is we help them understand where they are and where they want to get to, and then translate that into the tangible activities and an achievable program plan that helps them get from where they are to where they want to get to in the most effective way. And this is what we've done with Swindon. So we help people define, plan, accelerate their digital transformation. And we do that in a number of different ways. So we talk about discovery, blueprint, train, and deliver. So what that means with discovery is about understanding where you are on that journey and understanding what things are important to your particular organisation. So there's a piece there about understanding the service landscape, understanding service needs, understanding what those pain points are, and ultimately understanding what the cost is. Because there's a big piece here about you need to have enough information from your data to understand where you go first, what's the best combination of things you can do in which order to deliver value quickly to your organisation and to really exploit the investments that you've made in products like Jadu. So Blueprint's all about translating that understanding, all of those things you know about your organisation, into a roadmap and a way of going about and delivering that. And that's all about sort of being very clear about kind of what's the right sequence and what's the right model for delivery. So we talked before about sort of agile. We talked about kind of taking a kind of test and learn approach, about iterating, about learning from feedback when you develop services. So the other thing we do is we train. So we don't want to be in your organisation delivering these services for you, building a dependency upon us as kind of external consultants to kind of design and to build services on your platforms. What we're keen on doing is about sharing some of our skills and experience and setting you up with the right combination of tools and training to be able to do that for yourselves. So again, one of the things that we've done with Swindon, and please talk to Sam and the team about it, is we've kind of created a kind of a digital delivery model. So it's about taking things from service design, it's about taking benefits management, it's about taking kind of change management, and it's bringing those things together into something which is a kind of coherent and sort of easily accessible way of setting up a model for delivering digital services on the Jadu platform. The other thing that we do is we can provide kind of capability and capacity. So again, it's about kind of setting up organizations with the tools and the skills that they need to be able to deliver these things themselves so it becomes sustainable. But we work in a highly collaborative way. And we're able to build some of these things out, to accelerate those transformations, to provide some additional resource and capacity if people are kind of driving towards particular timescales. And also then sort of step back and provide that kind of Q&A, provide that support to get people to a position where they're able to do all of these things for themselves and add real value to their organisations. We had the Swindon example before, and I think that's a really good example. So Swindon invested in Jadu. They've got a fantastic team, and what we're able to do is work with them to identify what the things were that they needed to do in the right order to accelerate their digital transformation. And a big part of that was about understanding where their ambition was. So they've got that kind of huge target in terms of 30 million in 2 years, and being able to translate that into the very practical, achievable things that they would need to do in order to achieve some of that target. So a big part of that was about co-production and knowledge transfer, and about sort of understanding what things they could reuse from their existing investments in technology and what the right way was of really leveraging and exploiting the Jadu platform. The other thing is we've done lots of this type of work in local government. So some of you around the room will recognise these logos. We're really keen to share the stuff that we do with the things that you do to be able to do this more quickly and more efficiently. Thank you very much for letting me talk to you. Any questions?